Hey everybody, welcome to Dice Anvil. Today I'm actually going to be using the footage from a live stream that I did on a Saturday morning. This is the time and the date of the next one. I live streamed this whole thing and I interacted with the people that were in the stream in order to make the video. So if you're interested in playing a part in that, please come and check it out next stream. But in the meantime, here we go. Going live now. Okay, good morning everybody. Today I got this is my favorite mug for two reasons. The shape and the way my hand goes, and also the color, because I know exactly when my coffee is ready because it matches the color of the cup. And that's a little fact about myself that you guys have now. So, what is on my screen right now is the question some of you probably are asking. Well, I have a character sheet on my screen. Okay. Recently I took a poll. I sent out some prompts for you guys to vote for, and we voted for them. And it was very interesting to see that feedback come back. And even in the prompts in the post that I made, I put in little quotes. This is for a video, by the way. So let's go ahead and check out what those are. So here we are. And these prompts were asking about character sheet preferences. So the first one I sent out was asking, what's your character sheet preference? Do you like it vertical or horizontal? Now, I really thought this would be more, more divided, maybe. I thought maybe there'd be more people, more split on the decision, but no, it's a resounding vertical is the preference of you guys. Honestly, that was kind of a shock to me because in my head, I'm thinking, well, vertical, or in my head, I'm thinking horizontal or landscape is the best way to go because you are able to, because it's going to fit on the table better, right? It's going to fit on the table better. It can be convenient. Also, it makes sense to me to like mark things on the far right side. If you're right-handed, then it's really convenient for you to access everything. But no, you guys said vertical, which I think is interesting and really good input because guess what? The character sheet that I had beforehand was horizontal. So it was very much not what you guys prefer. So this is really good data for me to have and for me to be able to utilize when designing my character sheet. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Your character sheet preference. So this one asks, do you want to have space to draw a character in? And this one, again, I guess I'm just full of surprises in the morning of my preferences for character sheets because I thought you guys would want to have space for your character, space to draw it out. I've always liked that, but I have a history in wanting to draw and drawing, so maybe it makes total sense maybe that I personally want to have space to draw my character, but 65% of you said no, you don't want to have that space, which was really interesting to me because let me go ahead and show you guys. So for reference, this is what I was working with. This is the character sheet that I was rocking with for a while, which as you can see, it is both horizontal and it has space to draw a character right here. So 0 for 2 right now. And this is why it's important for me to get the input from you guys because you guys are going to be the ones that would play the game or want to use the things that I make. So I'm going to make sure I take y'all's input as gold. So that's what I'm doing here. And the last one, I had no idea what this was, which is kind of a good thing because I definitely would have assumed wrong is what's your character sheet preference? Do you want to have information on it to reference, or do you want minimalism, right? So, meaning, do you want to have like descriptions of the rules available to you, pretty much the entire game, like right there on your character sheet, or do you want to have nothing at all? Just keep it very sparse of a lot of information. Honestly, this was pretty much split down the middle. 47% want the information on there, and most people, slightly more people, want minimalism to be an option on there. Again, this isn't like a worldwide poll, but I know that my viewers are people that really care about design and about playing TTRPGs. So, as far as I'm concerned, the people that voted for this poll are experts in the matter. So, I'm definitely going to take that and run with it. But, given this information, what can we do with that? Okay, so this was the character sheet before that I was working with. You guys might remember the original Trichotomist character sheet. This was it, and I'm looking back at it, and so much has changed in just the last 6 months. You know, when I first presented it to you guys in those videos, and if you want to check out those videos before, go check it out. But I really am surprised on how much even the mechanics changed. And then went from here, and I messed around with it a little bit. I started making something here. I tried to simplify the skills and everything like that. And then I got to here, and I was pretty happy with it here until I saw the poll. And then I was like, okay, something needs to change here, because I'm really glad you guys said something to really change that. So this is where we are now. The grand reveal of the character sheet, and as of now, is the final draft. Boom. So we got a vertical character sheet, and there's a lot of interesting things on here that if you watched my last stream talking about conditions, then you know that this little section here matters a lot. So okay. So let's go ahead and check out each section. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that my values are pretty consistent when it comes to a TTRPG. You know that I want to have a narrative storytelling form of gameplay, always, overall. I want to not have to worry about AC or HP as often. And I want there to be, and I want an innovative, exciting mechanic, right? Throughout my last streams and throughout this whole process of building this game up, I have decided that I'm gonna make a system where the trichotomist system is going to utilize a D10. Let me find a D10 real quick. It's going to utilize a D10, and you're going to re-roll that D10 until you get a number high enough. So it's not a DC based game. It is a Power by the Apocalypse styled resolution system where a 1 through 3 is a total failure, a 4 through 6 is a failure but with a slight twist, a 7 through 9 is a success but with a twist, and a 10 is perfect success. So these little dashes you see here are how many times you can roll. Now, here's the thing. It's not like D&D. Yeah, these little dashes here are how many times you can roll the die, including, so if you have more than one, that means you have a reroll available to you, right? So, I have that 10. Let's say I have 2 in power, right? Those 2 dashes means that I can roll that, 2 times. So, let me go ahead and do that. I'm trying to kick down a door. I'm going to go ahead and roll once. I got a 6. So a 6 is going to be a success with Wait, I even forgot my own scale. Let me make sure because I don't want to butcher it in the video. Let me see. Okay, so a 6 is a fail with a twist. So that means I won't kick down the door, but it'll be loosened a little bit or something like that. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and take that reroll because fail with a twist isn't that great in the grand scheme of things, and I think it's worth the risk. And I got a 3, which means I just straight up fail the roll. And that's kind of the beauty of this system is it's a risk reward. It's almost like a gambling system, which I think makes every single time you roll for a check, it's very exciting and it's thought invoking, and you're weighing out the odds of how far you push yourself to accomplish a goal. So that is the thinking behind that mechanic. That is based on nothing. That there's no, as far as I know, no system like that besides um that utilizes basically the D&D version of advantage as the main mechanic. As of now, I like it a lot. It's simple. It's very simple. It should be very fast, and in tense situations, I can see it being very effective in influencing that character, that player, to feeling the tension in what they're doing. So we're gonna really lean into that here. I think narratively it can make a lot of sense. Like if you have like a successful roll and you roll again to try to get higher and instead you fail, it can be like a cinematic moment when you're about to reach it, you're about to succeed, but then something happens and it gets in the way and messes you up. So that's kind of the thinking there. Down here you got a classic description section. Here you'll have the origin of your character, which will be different depending on what type of character you want to choose for the setting that we're in. You have the appearance, just a little couple notes of how they look, and a little couple notes on how they act, their personality. Then I have a little section here for their background, and this is the part I'm really excited for is the goal creation section, right? You might remember my old system. It was very important for people to have goals, right? I have like a goal section right here. And that was really important to me because I really want the players to feel their goals and to move towards their goals and for that to have narrative importance as well as mechanical importance. If anything, to reinforce the idea of okay, what would my character want to do in this situation? What am I working towards? So this is a great way for you to do that. So I'm trying to still figure out the spacing, but I really want for you to check off like one of these prompts: discover, protect, change, create, destroy, become. And that's like the first word of your goal. So what the hope is, you're going to check off a goal, whatever your goal is at that time, and let's say it's discover, right? But from there, it's up to the character. So discover myself, discover my true potential, discover this ancient artifact that I'm searching for. Whatever you want. Protect the ones I love, protect my homeland, protect myself. It can be anything, and it will be able to change throughout the game, so you're not locked into one thing. There's a reason I have them all listed out on the character sheet, because you're supposed to be able to change depending on what direction your character's arc is going in. And we're going to talk more about character arcs in this as well. And right below, you got the barrier. I think this is something that, if you guys don't know, I'm studying, psychology. I'm getting my master's in counseling right now, and that's why I care a lot about the interpersonal turmoil in these characters, in the players that I play. There's always something they're going through internally that matters a lot. So, yes, you have a goal, but what's getting in the way of you accomplishing that goal? That's a question I ask on the field as well as when I'm playing a game. So, like in my last campaign, I would say my character's goal was to fit in, right? Or to feel worthy. that definitely for the first act, he wanted to feel important, right? So, in this way, I would check off when I create a goal. I'd check off become, and I'd be like become important to the world. That's what I would be able to know that just by looking at the checked off become there. And what's the barrier? Well, for my character, he was a species that was not very recognizable and was kind of strange to the other players and to the NPCs. So what's the barrier? The way I am would be the barrier. Or I have no he also had no memory of the past, so that could be a barrier as well. Whatever you want it to be. What's stopping you from just grabbing that goal now? It could be very practical, it could be kind of abstract. Whatever it is, make it make sense for your character. Okay, so that's that part. Let me see. I also have, this is the part I'm really excited about, are the conditions. These aren't fully completed yet, but let's go ahead and I want to pull up a reference here. I'm going to let me pull this bad boy up. Okay, so this is the character sheet for Avatar The Last Airbender. Oh. Come on now, get bigger. Okay. This is the character sheet for Avatar The Last Airbender right here. And the reason I'm pulling this up is because it was a huge inspiration to how I am making this game function now. So let me go ahead to the top here. In Avatar The Last Airbender, we have conditions. And this is basically how you track what's going on with your character. You can be afraid, angry, guilty, insecure, troubled. And that to me is not that special. Like, yes, it's good that you can put names to something, but you could do that pretty much in most other games. There's always something that you can do as far as that goes. But what was really, really interesting to me was how you cleared conditions. So if you're afraid, the only way you can get rid of that afraid condition is by running away from danger or difficulty. If you're angry, the way you get rid of your angry condition and the things that come with that is you break something important or lash out at a friend. I just want to say this is genius. This is genius because it's going to push that character to acting accordingly to that condition. It literally interweaves the mechanics with storytelling narrative. And I love that. I think that it's actually so cool that it does that. And that's exactly what I want to do here. Obviously, I have a lot more conditions. I got pretty excited, obviously. But I'm leaning into the body, mind, soul aspect of this game. Obviously, for body, I got practical things like bleeding, bruised, sick, starving, broken, maimed, and unconscious. I'm going to have the way that's going to work, because I'm sure everyone's asking, like, okay, how are you going to track health? Because that's the important thing about RPGs, right? So this is how we're going to do health. Similar to the last game, you're going to fill in some extra squares depending on your power, right? So if you have one slot in power, then you keep it the same. One of them's already filled out for you. But if you go ahead and fill out two more, then you'll go ahead and outline. You'd make the outline solid for these last two slots. And that's basically your threshold, how much damage you can take before it gets super severe, right? Because obviously if I hit my oh, I can't if I get hit with a baseball bat, I'm gonna be not I'll be out for days, right? Like I'm not gonna be able to do anything. I'm gonna be limping around. It's gonna be everyone's problem, and it's gonna be a big deal. It'll be more severe to me than Dwayne the Rock Johnson, right? If you hit him with a bat, he's probably gonna brush it off way easier than I am, and that's the thinking here. So you'll check off these boxes, and once you get hit by something, you'll get a condition, a body condition. You'll either be bleeding, bruised. Maybe if it's not just as simple as you hitting something, you'll be sick or starving. And those are kind of like the big four that you'll get commonly. You know, it's they don't they they don't affect the character as heavily, and they don't leave an impact that's gonna be, uh they're not gonna leave a uh wow, I can't talk. It's not gonna leave a permanent. It's not gonna be permanently impacting your character, right? Which is a okay. Okay, but once we get to the severe part, we check off the last box, right? The final box has been checked. It is now severe. So you then would have to choose one of these three other ones, which would be broken, maimed, or unconscious. So broken would refer to a broken limb, broken rib, any like a broken bone of some kind, or maybe if you wanna, yeah, basically just broken limbs, or you're broken down to the point when you can't fight. You know, it's kind of abstract term. I want to cover as many possibilities as possible, but I want it to be up to the player what that means to them. You can be maimed, like lose an arm, get a huge gash across your face, you know, or you can be unconscious, you know. So why would someone pick unconscious? Why wouldn't people choose that every time? Well, because you're helpless in that moment, but it's not gonna leave a scar forever. You know what I mean? Like, if you're broken or maimed, you're probably gonna be affected for the rest of the game. Not mechanically, but narratively. But if you but you'll be able to keep fighting through that, right? If you have a broken leg, you can still limp around, but it's gonna be way harder, and it's gonna leave a scar afterwards. Like maybe you have a slight limp, you know. But if you don't want to have a scar, you don't have to. You can be unconscious instead. But that means that you are very vulnerable. If you're not around your teammates, you could easily just be killed just like that. So, if you get hit or if you receive damage of any kind after after you've already filled out the severity meters, like if you're full on your threshold, your ability to take damage, and you take one more, you're dead. So, if you feel the need, you can think of the severity meter as your hits, basically. So an average like the least you can have are two hits until you're at danger of dying. So technically the minimum amount of hits you can have is three, and once you get hit a third time, you're out. But a maximum you can have is five. So, and I'm sure you guys are wondering, okay, well, how do you get hit? Okay, so it's going to be a regular roll. It's going to be you're going to roll for agility. And you're trying to beat a number. Now, this is the only time there's an AC number to hit. Or not AC, a DC number to hit. I'm going, the GM, depending on the situation, whether it's you falling off a cliff, or about to be hit by a great axe, or jumping into a fire, they're going to assign you a danger number. A number that the higher it is, the more dangerous the situation is, right? Or vice versa. The more dangerous the situation is, the higher the number will be. So if someone's throwing a rock at you, that's probably gonna be like a 5 in danger. That's not huge. You might end up bleeding or bruised, but it's probably not gonna affect you that much. So then you just roll for instinct, and you're just trying to beat that number, trying to meet or beat a 5, right? Pretty simple. Now, J-Face Games, I talk about him a lot. Um, J-Face, if you're watching somehow, then thank you for making your channel. It inspired me so much in the realm of TTRPGs. It inspired me so much. But in his game, or at least in some mechanics that he's discussed before in prior videos, maybe like a year or so ago, he talked about how different areas of the game have different difficulty numbers based on how dangerous they are. The environment itself is influencing how deadly this encounter is. I like that a lot, and that's extremely applicable for this game. because you can literally just, if this is a dangerous area with like flames or loud noises or an earthquake, then just add the danger number up. Just add another point to it. You can literally, through the narrative of the environment, change the way everything is affecting, I guess, the fight itself. Let's say that you have a lot of allies around and maybe the other team's overwhelmed. Well, take that in mind whenever you're having them roll to try to beat a danger number and just make it, reward them for that. You know? I want I want the environment to be another entity in combat that's going to be ever present and very important. And when the players affect or change the environment, I want them to really experience that mechanically too and be rewarded for that. So that's the idea there. And if you get a scar at some point, like if you reach the severity like threshold, then you would get a scar of some kind, and you would be able to track them right here in your scar section. And then that's not going to go away throughout the rest of the game. You'll be able to look back at that scar and be like, I remember that combat encounter, or oh yeah, I remember falling off that building. you know? So that's that. We also got, so that's it. That pretty much covers a majority of combat. I'm still trying to figure out how to deal damage. I wanted to, that's another video for another time. But right now we're just talking about the character sheet. And then here we got the soul. Next we got the, ooh, I was sitting on my foot and now it's a little bit numb. Isn't that fun? I hate it. Okay, so the next conditions we have are soul conditions. Definitely my favorite. Definitely my favorite. We got fear, shame, anger, and despair. And that pretty much covers most everything I could think of as far as like bad, like I guess like conditions you can be in negatively affecting your emotional being, right? And the way underneath each of these titles you have the way you clear it as well. Obviously for most of the body thing is going to be like, hey, treat the wound, stop the bleeding. If you're starving, eat something. If you're bruised, avoid physical strain for a day and you'll be cleared from it. If you're sick, rest or be medicated. A lot of them is self-explanatory, so I didn't go into a lot of abstract things when it comes to that. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do broken and maimed as one, but we'll figure that out. So, okay. So, for the soul ones, I had a lot of fun with the conditions here. A lot of them are like very influenced by the Avatar RPG. We got fear. You have to just risk others to escape danger. It's not just run away. You have to essentially risk other people. Like either that's running away from a fight way too soon when you're supposed to be helping, or maybe you are using someone as essentially a human shield in order for you to survive. That's taken it a step further in a way that I really think would be able to help the players come up with really good narrative, really, and push the narrative forward. Maybe the tensions in the group is a little bit heightened after that encounter, So every time I was coming up with something, I try to think of something like that, something that could push the narrative forward. So we got shame, get in harm's way for redemption. So basically, if you're ashamed and you feel pathetic, the only way you can clear that is by proving yourself eventually. And you can prove yourself in a lot of ways, but in this game, I want it to feel like you are making a sacrifice because of that. And the way you can really track that is by getting in harm's way. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean jumping in front of a moving train. This can just mean, harm in the way of like harming your social status, or like, risking risking your emotional well-being to do something, You're trying to redeem yourself, but at a cost, basically. In fact, I'll probably I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so anger, I got yell at a friend or break something. That's gonna be a fun one, probably. Yeah, I think people are going to relatively use that often because yeah, it makes sense. You just break something. Notice how I didn't say it has to be something precious to you. I think that if you break something like maybe go overboard when killing an enemy, I think that should count as well. Um, or yell at a friend, which is something that I think would really allow the characters to have opportunities for that role play. One of my favorite, my D&D group, or not D&D group, but it's a game that I'm gonna present at some point in the future. But my this campaign that I'm about to wrap up with some of my good friends, one of our favorite things to do was have there be conflict within our group. And during a lot of our arcs, it was just because someone did something that made it so we can't trust each other or we're mad at each other for different reasons. And working through that together and realizing, like, hey, like, what you did sucked, but I forgive you. Or, hey, we have to learn to trust each other for the, if not the good for us, the good for the world. That's a beautiful thing. And I want that to be readily available to any group that plays Trichotomist, is to have that interpersonal group conflict and have that resolved in a way that's narratively and mechanically satisfying. So that's what that is. And then we got despair, which is cleared, obviously it's any kind of sadness, not shame, but just overwhelming sadness or loss of hope, basically. So very applicable to most things, and you can receive inspiration from a peer in order for that to be cleared. So again, really leaning into that role playing aspect. If they successfully do something to inspire you or lift you up, then that would be cleared and you would be good to go as far as no longer being in despair. This is similar to one of the other ones from the Avatar game, because it is so uh, yeah, it's just it's so well done, and gosh, I love it so much. Okay, so that would go into mind. Mine's simple. Mine's easy. You're either disoriented or you're paranoid, right? It's one extreme or the other extreme. Either you don't know what's going on at all, or you're hyper aware of everything going on, and it's going to add a hindrance to what you're doing. So, good examples of this would be like, obviously, when you wake up from an unconscious state, you might automatically have the disoriented state because you don't know what's going on. It's like, in the movies when an explosion happens, there's a ring in your ears. Things are blurry as they get up. They're squinting. They're looking around at the rubble. People are yelling at them, but they don't understand what they're saying. That's disoriented. Yeah, but you can use that in a lot of different ways. Um, so the way you clear that is have the situation clarified to you. Another role play scenario when you're interacting with either an NPC or another character, you're stumbling around and you're like, what? And they have to like look at you in the face and be like, hey, someone just set off a bomb. We have to go now. And then you'll be able to snap out of it and understand what's going on and go, right? If you're alone and you're disoriented, then if I were the GM, I'd allow them to try to make an instinct roll to see if they're able to snap out of it themselves. But otherwise, the easiest way to get out of disoriented is to have someone explain it to you, which is just inspired by all those movie scenes and all those tropes of wars and stuff like that that play into that. You can also be paranoid, which is basically it can be a result of you being not quite scared, like you don't need to sprint away, but maybe you're looking around, you're like, I think something's happening, but I can't prove it. It doesn't have to be uh like a delusional form of paranoia. It can just be you paranoid about something that might be completely true. Like, yes, there is an assassin in the room and he's going to try to get you. But if you fail a certain roll or if you need a twist, maybe you can become paranoid about it. You know? So the way you clear that is by investigating suspicion for answers, right? You have to lean into a little bit. You're going to actually be paranoid and actually try to look around for what that answer is. So that's that. That's how the conditions work. And whenever you have a condition, you have a -1 to your roll, which is a big deal. Which is a really big deal because you only have 10 numbers on this die, and now the highest you can get is a 9. Yeah, it sucks, but that's why it's gonna have so much urgency to push yourself to clear that and lean into the narrative and lean into that role playing aspect in order to mechanically get rid of this hindrance. I also really want to push for allowing character players to be able to pick what condition they have based on the situation, based on their preference, and based on what they want their character to go through, right? Down here we got a place for people to track their items, we got a place for people to track their notes, and we got a place where people will track their story arcs. Now, this is not a normal thing. Story arcs on a character sheet is not normal. And you might notice I have part 1, part 2, part 3 on here. Because I really want the GM to be aware of the story, be aware of the conclusion of the story, and Trichotomist is going to encourage the GM to have the major plot points of this campaign be split up in a way that you can basically see it as, you know, a trilogy or a 3-act book, you know, just so that you can have major events happen in a sequential way that is, and allow the characters to lean into that and really be able to, I want to be able to track the growth they have during each of those parts. So that's why I have these here. These are one to take notes of what your characters, you know, what they did during the parts internally. Like, yes, you can write down like, oh, we defeated this dungeon, or oh, we killed this monster. Yes, that's all well and good, but what I want is for people to write, I failed this goal, or something. I lost my arm, and now I don't think I could create. I don't think I could become a great warrior now. You know, and you'll have your current goal up there, but after every single part, I want the GM to give the option for the player to change their goal based on what happened in the most recent part of the story. And it'll be very open, and I want there to be conversationally based, like everyone around the table talk, reminisce about the most recent part, talk about what happened, what are you going to change your goal to if you want to change it. You might not want to. You might want to be a a static a static character arc where you don't change throughout the campaign. You can do that if you want. I would encourage you not to, but that's definitely an option for players that maybe aren't super comfortable with changing up their character that much. Okay? I leaned into the layout of this. Oh yeah, and then we got the abilities. Duh. There's gonna be certain abilities you can have. You're gonna start off with 3, and then after each part starts, you're going to be able to get a new ability. And there's going to be a huge list of them available to the characters in the rulebook that they can choose from. There's going to be some that are specific to their origin that they can choose from. There's going to be certain advantages they have with certain abilities. It's extremely applicable across pretty much any setting, but for the main character sheet, or for the main campaign, or for this main book, the Trichotomist the Trichotomist rule set is going to be designed for this setting. So that's what we're doing right now. And it's going to be great. You can have, and each ability is either a body, mind, or soul ability, obviously. And that basically just changes kind of how they operate. And yeah, it would be really good if you, as a player, already decide what the abilities you want to have for the future to be. It'd be really good if the player can go and decide, what do I want my character to end up being like? And as they move through their arcs and their character story, they are able to interweave all those different abilities, all those different goals into their story, so that it is super rewarding once you get to that point, right? So obviously, um, should I spoil? I don't know. Brandon Sanderson. I'm reading the Stormlight Archives right now, and I'm definitely going to talk about it at some point in the future. But he really does a good job in uh, the character abilities, and they have a lot of cool magic abilities throughout the book. But it feels super rewarding because you know that he has been planning this the entire time, and that when it happens so naturally, right? I think one thing that uh, we typically take for granted is the leveling up system, and how, yeah, you fill it in and you go ahead and just write down your new abilities, don't have a second thought about it. I would love it if, you have an ability available, but it's only available when it's narratively appropriate for you to receive that. Maybe there's a moment when you are back against a wall and the monster's closing in. Your fireball ability or whatever is available, and you say, right now in the story, this would be a good time to use it. So then it's available to you, right? Your character, the player obviously knew it's always been available, but you can play it out as if the player, or you can, wow, tongue twister. The player already knew it was available and that the character was gonna get it, but you can play out the character as if they just discovered this ability, right? And play into that in a role play scenario so that it's impactful. The whole time while making these rules, I'm trying to think of, if someone were to write down, take notes of the entire session and make it into a book, how can it be the most entertaining book it can be? And that's what role playing games are. They're storytelling games. So I don't think that's super. I don't think it's super profound to say, but it's definitely something that I prioritize. So when designing a character sheet, it's important for you to take notice of your spatial awareness, right? Like, does it look too cluttered? Like some of my prior designs, I've designed a lot of character sheets, and I feel like I've had a lot of bad ones and a lot of okay ones. I've tried a lot of different ideas, but consistently, what I always go back to, and what I find in common with all the other good character sheets, is they always try not to keep it cluttered, and they always take special, and they always pay attention to where things are located. I'll, Typically, if you want something to not change, you're going to put it at the top of the character sheet, right? Because it's easily accessible for the person when writing. The things that you're going to have them access the most, you're going to want to put on the bottom right hand corner, because most people are right handed and they'll be able to write it super easily, especially when you're dealing with a vertical character sheet. You're going to want to have that super available. But generally, the bottom right or anything around that should be things that you're going to switch out often. That's why I have my notes here. Items you're going to grab and get rid of all the time. That's also on the right side. And also, readily available on the right side of the page, so you don't have to reach over or scribble or put your hand all over your notes or anything like that, are the conditions. What's not going to change very often is obviously up here the tricon. You're never going to change that throughout the entire game. Same thing for the description. You might change your goal like 3 times throughout the entire game, but that's it. Your background, your origin, your appearance, your personality are probably going to be very consistent. You're probably not going to change those throughout every session. So that's why it's almost the farthest away from here. Abilities, like I said before, I would like it if people could pick out their abilities pretty early on so they know what they want their character to become. Obviously, you can change that, but that's why it's where it is right there. In character story arc, you know, not only is it available for them to write on, which they will be doing every now and then, but it's also kind of out of mind just by being in that corner, because I don't want it to be it's not the center of attention. It's documenting your story arc, and it is there for reference if you need it, but it shouldn't be readily available like how conditions should be. I think the eyes naturally go to the center of the page, like the thing that pops the most. I specifically designed the notes, items, and story arcs as kind of bland for the purpose of their eyes going to what really matters. What really should be tracked was the conditions and the abilities and the tricon, right? So that was my thinking there. So yeah, that's it for this morning, I believe, guys. So I just wanted to update you guys on how the character sheet development is going. Show you guys what I've been brainstorming, what I've been cooking up, and yeah, I'm also going to post this on YouTube as a video. I'm going to cut it up into a much more concise way because I do want a majority of my audience to have the opportunity to see this in a way that's convenient for them, because it is very important for a role playing game what the character sheet will be, especially when I'm also presenting these mechanic changes as well. Um, Overall, I'm pretty happy with how it is now. However, I have more work to do. So, if you are interested in helping me out develop this game further, do do not hesitate to go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. It's important to me, y'all's input. I said that in the beginning of the stream. I said in the beginning of the video that I take what you guys say very seriously, because you guys are gonna be the ones playing it, or talking about it, or even acknowledging it. Because yeah, and you guys are way better at this than I am, and I don't want that to ever be twisted. I'm very thankful for all of you. Um, okay, well, that's it for now. So let me go ahead and sign off. But thank you guys so much for watching. Y'all have a good day.